Welcome into the ASN studios. I'm Monica McNutt. Happy New Year to you. It's our first A10 Spotlight of 2017. We'll kick off the year with hoops. We'll make sure you know who the award winners are to close out 2016. And a Fordham women's basketball standout stops by to talk her very impressive number and just how she's gotten there. Then we'll go to the pitch with VCU women's soccer player and her unique story. Mark Adams is here with Mark Madness and his signature Mark My Words segment. So let's jump right in. The weekly award winners. Richmond's senior TJ Klein is the player of the week on the men's side. In a win over Davidson, an 82-80 thriller, he put up 19 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists. Rookie of the week is shared by Rhode Island freshman Jeff Doughton, who put up 12 points in 19 minutes in Rhode Island's victory over St. Louis, and St. Joe's freshman Charlie Brown, who added 13 points in a come-from-behind victory over George Washington. On the women's side, Jamreese Davis and Sadie Stepanovich share the player of the week. Davis put up 14 points, 13.3 rebounds, and scored in a double-double in 3 games. Stepanovich, 22 points and 7 rebounds. She had a 33-point performance in a win against Davidson. And freshman of the week goes to Jade Hines-Clark of Richmond, who chipped in 11 points, 3.5 rebounds, in a pair of wins. Speaking of players of the week, we are pumped to welcome in now Fordham junior Ramirez Davis. Ramirez, thanks for stopping by.
No problem.
When we read about the Co-Player of the Week award this week, one of the nuggets was that you averaged a double-double over the 3 games that counted toward the award. Now, I looked at the stats. You kind of have been doing that ahead of that on the season right now. You're putting up 13 and 12. What has been your focus coming into this season?
I just wanted to focus on being a better teammate. My prior years, I focused a lot on putting up numbers, like, scoring, grabbing rebounds, whatever it was always the numbers that I was focused on. And I kind of lost sight of, being team oriented. And it kind of used to mess me up a little bit because I was always in my own head. But now I just try to focus on, just being the best that I can on and off the court and being the best teammate that I can. So even if my shots aren't falling, playing defense or grabbing rebounds, just doing the little things, and the numbers have seemed to just follow.
Isn't that ironic? Sometimes it works out like that. The thing that you're not concerned about happens.
Yeah.
Well, scripted, Ramirez, my next question was a double-double a goal that you set for yourself? But it sounds like what you actually probably wrote on your vision board was be a better teammate.
Yeah, actually a double-double was one of my goals. I told myself that I wanted to average 15 and 10. I'm slowly creeping up on that. But I wasn't so focused on the numbers. Like I said, average 15 and 10, just so I have it in my mind how hard I need to work off of the court in practice. It wasn't really, focusing on the numbers exactly, but it just was something to motivate me to work a little harder in my workouts and, put a little more work outside of practice.
In the preparation and in the additional work, is there a skill that you worked on specifically, or have you found that your success in these 2 categories was all about adding additional effort?
It kind of both, because I knew I needed to get my footwork down pat. The previous 2 years I've been called for walks a lot. So I knew I had to get my footwork down if I wanted to be a threat offensively. So I focused on that a lot to help me a little more in the post. And, I just got stronger because I knew I would have to play the 5. So I had to get a lot stronger. And like you said, the little things like diving on loose balls, just cheering on your teammates or picking them up when they make a mistake, those things make a huge difference. So I just focused on, being an overall better player and better person for my teammates.
The numbers bear it out, Jamreese. You are on a roll statistically, but have you found the better teammate component has shown in that your teammates have been very receptive, and open to the new Jamreese?
Yeah, like being a better teammate has opened me up to a lot more things. Like, say if they're not passing me the ball in the post, probably my freshman and sophomore year, I would have screamed at them to give me the ball. And that's, now I'm just like, hey, I know you had that open shot, but I'm open in the post too, just give me a look. And they're a lot more receptive to what I'm saying. If I'm critiquing them on anything or if I'm giving them a word of advice, they take it in a lot better than, before. So we all work together a lot better.
This conversation is so fantastic, Jamreese. We had your coach on around Christmas time, and she actually told us that she knew that you were this kind of kid in terms of the numbers and the production that you're showing. She just said it took a little bit to get it out of you. What has Coach Gatley helped you, or what has she done to help you kind of get to this point?
Well, I was very, very stubborn coming in. I thought I knew everything. I thought I was so good. And I was not at all. But, you know, coming from a high school where you get to do whatever you want and no one ever says anything to you, it's hard to make that transition to college where everybody is just as good, just as athletic, if not, you know, better. So it was hard to make that transition at first, but Coach Gately was just really patient with me. We had a lot of talks, a lot of one-on-one sit downs in her office. I got in trouble a whole lot. I just had to learn a lot of lessons, and she just was very, very patient with me throughout the whole process. And now that it's finally starting to click, I see the look on her face. I see how much she trusts me on the court now, and it's just an amazing feeling.
I want you to know that we tried to get Coach Gately to give us a little nugget about the conversations that you guys have shared, but she was not having it. She said that she trusts you and that she wants to maintain your confidence in her. So she kept it to the four walls that make up her office between you and her. But we're all pumped about the numbers that you're putting up, Ramirez, for sure. Another thing Coach Gately told us, though, she said the wildest thing that she ever put on her Christmas list was a pair of go-go boots. Can you see your coach rocking a pair of go-go boots and doing her thing?
I actually can see her rocking a pair of go-go boots. She's very silly, so that matches her personality. I can see her rocking those.
You have been with Fordham for quite some time, and you mentioned it. Even though you've grown exponentially in your junior year, you've been on the floor since you got there as a freshman. All 33 games as a freshman, almost the entire season last year prior to your minor injury, 26 games. When you look at the program, what will success look like for the Fordham Rams this season?
I just think that we need to, maintain our team chemistry because since I've been here, this is my all-time favorite team this year. Our chemistry on and off the court is just simply amazing, and it's never a question as to anybody on the court working hard. Everyone works hard. Sometimes we don't play too smart in practice and we make mistakes, but it's never a question about somebody going hard. So I just think we need to keep pushing each other, maintain our team chemistry, and a big thing that why I feel like why we're so successful this year is because no one cares about who has the credit. Like at any given night, maybe I'm the leading scorer, maybe Burns is the leading scorer, maybe Lauren's the leading scorer. No one cares who is getting the credit of being, the player of the game or the leading scorer, who has the most rebounds. No one cares about that. We all just want to win. We all have the same common goal, and we're all pushing towards that. So I think if we maintain those things, we'll be great this season.
Now, are these things something that you guys have had conversations about, or is it just a team coming together and sort of you're a junior, you've got seniors, and just the right group of kids?
I honestly think it's just the right group of kids. We didn't have to sit anybody down. And of course, we write out our team goals and what we expect from each other. But it was nothing we had to have meetings about telling people, you need to do this, you need to do that. Everyone just came together as a collective. We have a great group of leaders, and everyone just followed suit. Everyone bought into what Coach Gately's trying to teach us here, and, we've had great outcomes because of it.
Indeed, you guys have. All right, in the spirit of the holidays, just like we got a fun answer out of Coach Gately, we hope we get a fun one out of you with this one. What was the most ambitious? I don't want to call it silly because, New Year's resolutions are about setting goals for yourself. But what's a New Year's resolution that you look back on now and are like, I don't know what I was thinking?
See, I was never the New Year's resolution type of girl. I never really got into New Year's like that. So I never really made too many resolutions. But in high school, in high school, I used to make resolutions about I wanted to, I'm trying to think of, I can't even think of it right now. Oh, it's all right.
You know what? Hey, you're a smart woman. Resolutions should be made daily, not just at the beginning of the year.
Right. Exactly.
Well, thanks, Ramirez. We're going to keep our eyes on the Fordham Rams. We wish you guys continued success, and I hope you get to that 15-10 mark. You're pretty close.
Thank you so much.
Love chatting with her. Coming up, Mark and I head over to the couch to talk men's hoops. There's so much information that the table just can't handle it. We got to get comfortable for this one. And later, we all have different paths for one of VCU women's soccer players. Her path included 7 states, 5 club teams, and 2 high schools. Stick around for that story. Welcome back into the A10 Spotlight. It's time for some Mark Madness with our very own lead college basketball analyst, Mark Adams. Mark, we're going to jump right into it, and we're kicking this conversation off, Mark, with some Road Warriors.
It's been unbelievable in the Atlantic 10 as 6 out of the first 8 games in conference play, the Road Warrior has won. Richmond won at Davidson. What a game that was. VCU over George Mason. Rhode Island won at St. Louis. Duquesne at Fordham. St. Bonaventure at UMass. And Dayton at St. Bonaventure. Road Warriors all across the Atlantic 10.
Mark Madness continues to roll on, and I know, Mark, you already see a big 3 emerging in the A10.
The big 3, starting with the Dayton Flyers. What a job they have done as it's shaping up as Dayton won at home against LaSalle and then won on the road at St. Bonaventure. With all the injuries, it didn't matter. Rhode Island and VCU all opened with tough road wins in their conference openers. VCU was most impressive with a road win over the hot George Mason Patriots, 73-64, snapping George Mason's 9-game winning streak. This is going to be a really fun and wild ride in the Atlantic 10.
One of those big 3 that you mentioned, Mark, being the Dayton Flyers. And this is a squad that has endured and overcome quite a lot of adversity this season.
An unbelievable run by this team. They have overcome every roadblock along the way. Injuries galore for the Dayton Flyers, but they've overcome that adversity more than any other team in college basketball. It doesn't seem to matter who suits up for the Flyers. They just win. This is a team that lost one of the most talented big men in the country, and Steve McIlvain, as he died in May due to heart disease. Then they started the season without Kendall Pollard, who's a stud for 6 games, but now he's back at full strength. Then the Flyers lost arguably their best player in Josh Cunningham due to a torn ankle ligament and a dunk that went wrong in the last seconds of the win at Alabama. Then the Flyers lost Charles Cook, their leading scorer and rebounder, as he sat out a game with a wrist injury and then suffered a lower back injury in the win against LaSalle at home. He sat out on Tuesday. It doesn't matter. The Dayton Flyers still won at St. Bonaventure. Archie Miller, we're not worthy. We're not worthy. He's unbelievable what he's done with this program.
Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot because Mark and I were here in studio for that particular game, and you and I talked prior to the game. We kind of leaned towards St. Bonaventure at home and considering the injuries for Dayton. But is this something that Dayton can sustain if they don't get healthy?
Well, just go back a couple years ago when the Dayton Flyers went to the Elite 8. I mean, Archie Miller, during his career, has had 7 scholarship players available to him, and the Dayton Flyers just continue to win. I mean, when I look at Archie Miller and the job that he's done with the Dayton Flyers, I coached for many, many years. If I had the same situation as Archie Miller, I'd get fired. Actually, I was fired. Archie Miller still has his job.
Mark, I love your honesty and candidness. All right, speaking of the Dayton-St. Bonaventure game, a stud for St. Bonaventure and Mark Schmidt has been your cousin, Jalen Adams.
Yeah, he's my brother from another mother. I love Jalen Adams. He's a guy that really scores the ball so well. He just plays with such tremendous confidence. He went for 29 points and had 5 rebounds as the Bonnies went on the road and defeated UMass in their opener in the A10. He shot 60%, 63 from 3, and was perfect from the free throw line in that 20-point game. This kid can really score, and when he gets going, he takes and makes big shots at big times. But what a win it was for Dayton. They held he and Matt Mobley down in that big matchup.
Indeed. My dad uses the term big game hunter. I think that's what Jalen Adams is.
I like that. I'm going to use that. Can I borrow
All right,
that?
we keep it moving to VCU, and this was a standing ovation, a performance quite fantastic to open the A10 play for VCU.
Bravo, bravo VCU, as you came through and found a way to win on the road against George Mason. Now, that may not sound like a big deal, but Mason won 9 games in a row. Coach Paulson's team has been playing at a very high level, and all of a sudden VCU now is on a 5-game winning streak. They shot 50% in that game for the 3rd time in 5 games, and they hammered the offensive glass. Havoc is back for the VCU Rams.
Speaking of Virginia, Richmond, with a little bit of a surprise to end the 2016 calendar year, open up play with a win over Davidson.
That was a huge win, and Kleinfeld is now the new hit sitcom in Richmond. T.J. Klein is an absolute stud as he went for nearly a triple-double. The Spiders hang on at Davidson for that 82-80 road win. T.J. had 19 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, and showed why he's one of the toughest matchups in the A10. In our next segment, I'll show exactly why Kleinfeld is such a hit sitcom.
Lots of legacy there. That's going to be interesting. Make sure you stick around for Mark's next segment. Now, this one, I love your play on words on this one. We're going to Duquesne. We got to talk about Isaiah Mike. We're going with the Duke of Hazzard.
The Duke of Hazard is Isaiah Mike, a talented freshman for Jim Ferry and the Dukes. If you've got to build your program around one guy for the next 4 years, it's this guy, because Isaiah Mike has won virtually every award, it seems, every week as we keep coming back with newcomers and freshmen of the year. This is a guy that's very much on my radar for freshman of the year in the Atlantic 10. Isaiah Mike has been a stud for the Duquesne Dukes.
Now, Mark, I'm going to ask you this, big picture. Unlike last year, I thought we had a couple of teams that were sort of standing out in terms of teams that really could take the conference. This year, I feel like we've got a lot of contenders. It's almost anybody's conference to take. What do you think?
I felt that way, especially when you think about Richmond going to Davidson. Now, Davidson was a ball club that I thought would finish in the top half. I still think they will with Jack Gibbs and Peyton Aldridge. But Richmond going in, they're the X-Factor team because of the way that they play, the way that they execute. They're hard to guard, and they've got Kleinfeld. He's a tough matchup for everybody.
We're really going with Kleinfeld?
Oh, yeah, we're going with it. Yeah.
Stick with Kleinfeld.
Maybe right down with it, but we're going with it.
All right, Mark, we're going to stay in the A10, but we are going to switch gears. We go from the basketball court to the pitch. We've got the great story of a VCU women's soccer player, how she overcame adversity of her own to get to where she is on the VCU Rams women's soccer squad. Welcome back. While we salute our military, it's truly their families that absorb the brunt of their sacrifice. For VCU Soccer's Sarah Gibson, both of her parents were in the Air Force. She's endured moves and deployments, but she set a goal, which she achieved, and found a second family along the way.
Freshmen have a lot to adjust to during their first few months of college. VCU women's soccer freshman Sarah Gibson has a bit of an advantage. Growing up with two parents in the Air Force, change and new surroundings were the way of life. She's lived in 7 states, played on 5 club teams, and 2 high school teams.
On average, it's probably about every 3 years. We spent 4 years in Ohio and then only 1 year in Alabama. But usually it was 2 to 3 years and we'd move again.
This lifestyle can be tough on a child, but Sarah always had her family.
I hear people talking about, oh, this person's been my best friend since first grade, since kindergarten, and I've never had that experience. It's always been my siblings who have been with me, or my family in general.
Sarah's parents, Jane and Jeff, met as cadets at the Air Force Academy and bounced around the U.S. while raising 4 children.
My career field is space and missile operations, or it was. It has since divided, and now it is space operations.
Sarah has memories of her mom's place of employment being underground.
I remember always asking my mom questions about why she worked in a mountain.
At the time, I was in the Space Control Center, and we were responsible for tracking all man-made objects up in Earth's orbit. At the time, there was only about 8,000 things that we kept track of every day, some of them of higher interest than others, the International Space Station being one of those objects.
Jane is now an Inspector General, 4 months from retirement. Her husband Jeff was a contracting officer who retired last year after 2 tours of duty overseas.
Yeah, it was tough. I don't remember the first time he was deployed, but the second time I remember we skipped school to kind of send him off. So it was nice to have that time with him, but it was also, you dreaded that day that we kind of knew he was going to be gone for a while, and he was gone over the holidays that year, so that was really tough.
It was tough. The kids were busy with sports and activities, and we just had a spreadsheet that told us where to go and when to be there, and slept at night.
Watching my mom juggle 4 kids at the time, like looking back, you're like, oh, wow, you did a lot.
Sarah had to do a lot of adapting to new teammates and coaches as her family moved around the country.
When I started playing club and when I really started playing competitively, that became kind of annoying to develop with these other players and figure out how that coach likes to play and how those other players are playing and how you fit into their system. And then moving new, you kind of have to find your place again.
But she turned it into a positive.
There's so many different styles of coaching and so many different ways of approaching the game and playing the game that I kind of, every time I moved, I got a new viewpoint of the game or a new something added to my game. So one coach could have taught me a bunch of technical stuff, and then I move and the next coach doesn't focus on the technical aspect of the game but focuses on tactical aspects.
That varied experience helped her make an immediate impact at VCU.
We're fortunate to have Sarah. She's been somebody who's not been a surprise because we knew she was a good player, but you know, to come on as a freshman and get the kind of time that she's been getting for us has been excellent. She works so hard, she's incredibly fit, and she's very coachable. You tell her to do something and she's gonna figure out a way to make that happen.
She set a goal for herself to play Division I soccer, and it has been absolutely awesome to watch her attain that level of skill and recognition and to see her take the pitch and see that dream realized.
Growing up in a military family has prepared Sarah to balance her biomedical engineering degree with playing soccer.
I love VCU. It's definitely been an adjustment, just like balancing your free time and how much you want to spend with friends and getting all your schoolwork done. And of course the soccer, it's so much fun to just be able to play every day and have basically 30 best friends instantly.
Kudos to Sarah. I can't even spell biomedical engineering. Coming up, mark my words. Mark said that he'd have more on the reigning A10 Player of the Week, TJ Klein. He delivers that ahead.
Welcome back to A10 Spotlight. Nancy Lieberman generated huge numbers, over 2,400 points and nearly 1,200 rebounds during her historic career at ODU from 1976 to 1980. She averaged over 18 points a game for her career. But the thing that separated her from all other players during her time, besides Magic Johnson, was her ability to pass. She averaged nearly 9 assists per game in her sophomore season alone at Old Dominion. Nancy Lieberman was an unusual talent who won a gold medal in the 1980 Olympics. Nancy was a dominating collegiate and professional player in her day and is now an assistant coach with the Sacramento Kings. Her son, TJ, also may be a professional in his future, as that will unfold after his senior season. He is an unusual talent and will catch the eye of some NBA team looking for a guy who sees the game just like his mother. The Richmond Spiders have a guy by the name of Kleinfeld. That's what they called him in New York when I covered him during the Barclays Classic. He has eyes behind his head. He sees everything on the floor. He's a master at reading defenders and then putting the ball on a dime for easy assists to easy baskets. This guy can bang the 3-ball. He also can dribble, drive, and lay it up, but he sees the floor so well. His vision on the court is what reminds me of Nancy Lieberman. That's why he's special. Keep watching those Richmond Spiders and keep watching Kleinfeld. It's a hit sitcom right now in Richmond. You don't want to miss it.
Thank you for that, Mark. TJ certainly has some great blood in his veins. I'm Monica McNutt. That's going to do it for this edition of the A10 Spotlight. I'll see you next week.